for example, Rogue play, and they will be playing in the final match for the day. But if SK Gaming and Spacestation manage to draw here, it keeps Rogue in the running for potentially going to the playoffs. Whereas if one of them manages to get the win, they are going to accelerate themselves into that second place spot, and they'll further solidify that potential to go to the playoffs. And that's what they're both of these teams are vying to do right now. It's a huge implication for anyone who manages to get that W.
Yeah. Shift towards the bans here. Unsurprisingly, we see Lion say so long goodbye, joined by Maverick and then Mira. And Spacestation actually taking quite a while here with their final ban. Now keep in mind that Redeemer, very, very good on both Maestro and Echo, so there will likely be some self-inflicted damage here. And a bit ironic that Spacestation bans out Echo, but anywho, likely see him playing that Maestro, and playing that Maestro quite well, if we're being honest, over the last couple weeks. He has just been a monster on that role.
So, looks like it's going to be the basement for the first defensive setup. And you can't really go wrong in terms of defense on Clubhouse these days. You go Cash, you could go Master, you could go Basement. Some teams will venture to the bar. However, those teams are far and few between. If there is a team that's going to do it, though, I suppose SK. They're on attack first half, though, so we're going to have to wait and see. Looks like it's going to be a 6-pick into the Glaz from the Thermite. Glaz left unbanned, and the Maverick was put in his place. Interesting that we saw Maverick banned instead of potentially Habana, potentially a more influential operator in terms of hard destructors on this map. But you can't go wrong with a Maverick either on any map.
Yeah, I think the Maverick ban is pretty smart and tends to make a lot of sense on Clubhouse. It's very similar to Glaz on Coastline. I would actually like to see the amount of times that we end up with a Maverick being banned on Clubhouse in particular.
I mean, I would still argue that that Habana would be a more influential ban on Clubhouse. I think both of them are really powerful here, but I don't know. I'm just thinking about how much more powerful the basement is as a defensive site if Habana's not there. You know, Maverick, it's hard to open up those drop downs with Maverick. You use him for, yeah, you're going to push in through Dirt Tunnel. Yeah, it's going to be silent, but there are tools at your disposal to stop things like that, like Clash, for example. You know, and Habana can do the very same as is putting into example here by Pojo.
I mean, it's not even necessarily just that, though. If you think about it, Maverick also, think about the church wall. Think about how you can just poke holes in the church wall and make it so that it's almost impossible for you to sit there and have no counters and be almost completely silent. And there you go. Hey,
I'm not trying to sit here and tell you that Maverick isn't ridiculously powerful. I'm just saying, you know, he's not going to have a good time opening the drops. This is the only thing I'm saying here. But no, you're right. Both of them are great bans potentially on this map, and I don't disagree with the Maverick ban.
Yeah, I'm very surprised at a map that, I mean, it's a map that already tends to be more favorable and more, you know, kind to defenders, that we wouldn't see a possible hard breach ban come out here. And I mean, I don't really consider Maverick to be a hard breach ban in the grand scheme of things. He's a hard breacher by exact definition, but I think there needs to be some more specifics there. The Glaz is just going to walk right in, and Nyx is going to get caught in a crossfire. Excellent play from Space Station there. Rampy only losing a small bit of health in that encounter. That's a big loss for SK.
That's a great example of how not to use your Glaz. And because of that, SK are already down a little bit, and they're going to have to continue to try and clear out this top floor. And when they go for the actual site push, they are not going to have that huge powerhouse that is the Glaz. That's where he really shines, not in clearing out roamers. So from behind here, Houghton is going to find the alibi Prisma and choose not to shoot it. Already aware of it, seemingly.
Well, I think the right call has been made there from Mint doing drone work, but no, Houghton is going to get bamboozled by this alibi, and now Mint is going to have a bit better of an understanding. Sees the Jaeger and will give his position away as he shoots through the Prisma, but this alibi of Rampy so strong. Pojo unsheaths the Bearing 9 and able to control its recoil in a burst, takes down Rampy, but That's 2 roamers from Space Station that have been able to eat up just over 2 minutes of the clock. Final logic bomb going off here from Mint. They still have a set of smokes, and they've still got 2 frag grenades. There will be ADSs down, likely from Brian at some point towards the site. And the hard breacher as well of Pojo is still up. So there's a lot of utility and ability for SK to execute under this site. I don't know if they've burned the ADSs or not, but it does seem like they'll get the smoke off. Going on to drones will be the Hibana, and now Jarvis will try to just wriggle his way in through dirt. The Sledge could be in a very strong position here. Mint will find Redeemer, and that's one of the anchors down. Thinking Nade inside of Church, pushing up, hearing all the goo mines go. That'll be Chala inside of Church. Both thinking Nade and Chala in good position. Diffuser will need to go down. Jarvis, excellent coverage. Chala goes for the C4, and it clutches it onto Pojo. Oh my goodness, Chala at the last second will manage to get that C4. Excellent timing. What a play for Space Station.
That was certainly a Hail Mary, but it definitely worked out in the end. A big part of that was the Legion traps in the main hallway. You could see there were quite a few stacked up, and on the push, the Hibana just stopped dead in his tracks, taking so much damage and forced to stand still instead of push around the corner to deny that C4 outright. If that had been the case, we might have seen a different outcome here. However, there's another factor at play. It wasn't just the C4 from Space Station. It was also the fact that their roamers managed to waste so much time. SK Gaming coming down to the site and attempting to plant the diffuser on the 000. That's never a good situation for the attack.
Yeah, I mean, Space Station just having the 2 bodies upstairs with those alibis. Alibi's gadget doesn't exactly factor into a lot of defenses, I would say. Typically, it's more of a fun gadget than it does really bring a lot of playmaking potential for the team there, but it certainly had its usage in such close quarters, and I mean, it was a part of the reason, maybe not the most important, that Space Station was able to get an early pick there.
Yeah, usually with Alibi, it's the gun, the impacts, the shotgun, and the fact that she's a 3-speed. You know, it's the same type of deal with Vigil for the most part. While Vigil, you know, his utility is handy, it's also not, you know, the most influential form of utility for an overall team element. And you mostly see him played because of his great armament. Now, Space Station going to be going to Cash Room for their second defense, which not a huge surprise there.
Cash is, yeah, Cash and Jim and Master, or Cash CCTV / Cash, and then Jim Master are typically your next 2s. I think a lot of your next 2 sites to defend, I think a lot of people will start on one of those upstairs possible sites. Lots of breaching charges, just as a side note, being brought from SK as you see both the Zofia as well as the IQ running that. Weird, when you think that the IQ would bring her frag grenades, right? Oh.
Why do you always have to joke about that one in particular?
Because that one bothers me the most.
Why don't you...
I'm not original. I'm not original. I don't pretend to be.
It's like now I'm expecting you to like start joking about the ACOG on the SMG-11.
I've never made a joke about that, actually.
I know. I just... It's like, it's along the same things. It's, you know, it's just... It's done now, Parker. It's done.
I mean, I'm tired of these developers attacking the GSG9 operators. First you take the ACOGs away, then you take the frag grenades away. What are you going to do, take Blitz's shield away next? Leave them alone. Excellent impact trick here. Won't get all of the X-Kairos, and that will be a hindrance towards Space Station, as there will be a small hole that will be exactly ankle and calf height for SK to look through inside of construction.
Yeah, now you can't really get anything done from that as an attacker other than maybe doing a little bit of damage to the defenders, but that little bit of damage can stack up if you play it right. And the second set of X-Kairos is going to be successful, so that is now potentially a crouch hole into the A site. It gives you more than one angle to push this, which is fantastic. Mid gets the first kill onto Chal, so the Jaeger goes down, and seemingly from below. Great job to him on IQ to be able to get that kill. Jarvis looking for some angles onto anybody playing inside of A, but there's nobody in that position currently. Brian is trying to hold A by himself from the top of Cash stairs. Powerful position, especially on the smoke, but he goes down. So SK has free reign on the site. There is a crossfire here, but it's not going to be enough to deny the defuse plant just inching into the site itself. Rampy from below, perfectly placed C4 will be enough, and Space Station have managed to keep this going in their favor as Redeemer takes down Hot and Cold. 20 seconds remain, and Space Station are in a great position now from a seemingly disastrous one. The mark's coming out in the middle of the site, but Jarvis will take down Redeemer. Thinking Nade knows what he has to deal with right now, but he's not able to make any angles actually go in his favor. And as he peeks onto Jarvis, he loses that battle, leaving Rampy in the 1 versus 3. The diffuser going down, but it's also being marked. He's not going to be able to pull it off. Nyx will shut him down, and SK take round number 2.
Good hold from SK there, getting a little hairy in the dying seconds of that round for them. The first C4 missed. It's a good thing that you got a second one there available for you with Rampy underneath, as it was a bit haphazardly tossed the first time out towards the window by the AC unit. Overall, Space Station, I think, were simply too pressured inside of the site. Once that construction wall got opened up, it completely forced all of Space Station to concede one of the 2 bomb sites. And one of the bigger problems with cache CCTV is if you've lost one of the sites and construction, you're going to have to play out of where? Red, lounge below or stock below, garage, and then the other site. That's it. And that's not a lot of space for you to rotate, especially when there's still 5 of you alive.
Now, of course, I would argue that Space Station gave away just a few too many lives for no cause. Most notably, of course, is going to be at the top of those cache stairs. Brian died too easily, just being peeked on from someone from construction. But there was also a situation there, a play-make position that was being played by the Bandit of Thinking Nade. He was right up against the doorway to the site, and nobody was watching for a potential push. If he had simply gone for the kill there on the IQ, which he had full information on, inside of A, that would have put his team in a great position, but instead, for whatever reason, he chose to peek the B window, and he was eliminated very easily. Not the right play not the right play decision for the Bandit. Could have potentially been the catalyst for a win there, but it just wasn't to be, I suppose. And these things do happen. SK, on the other hand, a decent attack strategy there that managed to work out for them, and they're going to attempt something very similar, it seems, as they start to clear from the west to the east.
Nyx is going to be a pretty important part of this SK play, I think, a second time around. I think he was a crucial element the first time, and his death early on was a big setback for SK in that first round. So Space Station, I don't think really choosing their targets effectively in terms of knowing that that was Nyx pushing them, but they lucked into a pretty high-profile first kill there with the Glaz on round number 1. In round 2, we saw Nyx just held an angle, as you would see a Blackbeard possibly do, and dare somebody to try to rotate, and that all the way from construction into red was as good of a look as that Glaz was going to get. I imagine that we're going to see Nyx probably do the same thing this time.
Yeah, very likely, as it is clearly the same attack strategy being set up. Thinking, seemingly trying to bandit both of the walls. He's actually put down all 4 of his batteries. Now, there is no Thatcher, so there's no way to directly destroy the batteries other than from, shooting them or, shooting them out from below or anything on that nature. You're not going to be able to get rid of them when you're on the adjacent side. So, not an easy situation for SK, but seems like they've managed to make it work, possibly for, thanks to a grenade. The impacts will do a little bit of damage there, but the Excaros on the prone level will open up that hole once more, and Brian will go down once more very easily.
Once more, and I really liked the way that we saw both Nyx as well as Pojo playing that. Brian was in a very hard position to stay alive in, and even though he was pretty crucial in trying to get that impact trick, once again, you saw the same thing happen with SK getting that small 1x Kairos wide hole opened up, and now the ADS will get burned out. Actually, SK is going to go for the execute much quicker this time around, but they still haven't been able to take out Rampy below. The C4 might get Pojo. No, not even a scratch on the new shiny coat of the Habanas. Now the UMP going through the floor, but Pojo will persist, and a very successful plant going down here. This is SK firmly in control, but there's still 9 people upright. Space Station still have tons of retake potential. Diffuser situated just by that construction, or the opening in construction. It's going to be tough for Space Station to go through. Jarvis and Redeemer will trade words, and it will be Redeemer who ends up getting down, so Jarvis will have the last laugh there. A great kill from Pojo tracking Thinking Nade. Redeemer gets finished off by Jarvis. Jarvis getting his kills, a double on T'Challa, and Rampy destroyed by Pojo, man. 3 kills from Pojo, 2 from Jarvis, a big round from SK, and they will take the lead.
I have to say, a very tenuous hold on that site of cash for SSG, and that's twice in a row we've seen this. It seems like they're entirely relying on Brian's use of the smoke, and Brian, both times, has been eliminated before being able to expend all of his gas canisters. I believe he got 2 of them off, possibly, in the first attempt. Maybe all 3, honestly, but they didn't end up influencing the round to any great extent, nor did they deny the defuse plant just inching its way in through that construction wall. In that round, I didn't even see one. Maybe it did pop, but either way, again, little to no influence. So either Brian needs to adjust the way he's choosing to defend that site, or they need to invest more players in holding the construction push. No matter the case, Space Station now have lost their lead, and they will go back down to the basement in an attempt to regain it.
I mean, the biggest issue here is just how quickly construction has fallen. The moment that SK decides that they want to take construction, they take it.
There's no roamers in Master. There's no roamers in Office. I mean, you don't have to roam over there necessarily, but the lack of presence means SK has an easy time.
Space Station Gaming had more roamers when they were defending the basement on the Master side of things than they did when they were defending cash. And I mean, with the way that Space Station was playing this, to me would seem more sensible that they would defend Gym Master and then put bodies inside of cash and construction rather than the inverse, which is what we saw.
See, that's the craziest thing. We have more roamers on the basement, and then you have little to no anchors inside of cash for whatever reason. It's like Space Station is trying to defend everything but the exact pressure point SK is choosing to push pro.
I mean, I liked what Space Station was doing with Rampy. That's a pretty typical spot for your Pulse to play, and you've seen Valkyries play down there as well, trying to thwart a plant inside of construction. And to his credit, for 2 rounds, Rampy didn't have to worry about anybody from SK focusing on him. He went completely ignored downstairs. And oftentimes Rampy would be in a position where, well, he would end up dying towards the latter half of a round. That is, I mean, that's advantageous for a Pulse in that spot, but he just couldn't pull off what he needed to do with the C4 the second time.
Yeah, and I can admit that a good bait and switch strategy is solid, but it wasn't solid enough 2 times in a row. So, you know, hindsight, of course, being 20/20, but it's clearly something that Space Station need to adjust moving forward. Either way, here we go. Back to a basement hold. And once more, Space Station will be roaming over by the Master. They have 2 individuals upstairs. It's going to be Brian and Rampy, but they are being clearly encircled by SK, as you can see. And SK is very aware of this setup, very aware of this strategy, and they're going to try and counter it directly. Jarvis will take down Brian, so that's step number 1 already dealt with, and there goes Rampy as Pojo cuts off his rotation. So, fool me once, shame on me, and they will not be fooled twice. SK in a very efficient clear of the top floor. They lose a little bit of HP on Jarvis, but other than that, just time.
Yeah, that's much better and much better efficient use of this time from SK here. From Space Station, this could have been them having their back broken. But one of Space Station's greatest assets has always been their anchor play.
True.
Redeemer, Thinking Nade, and T'Challa have always been exceptional members of this team. Brian added, I think, a lot to their anchor play as well, which is the opposite of a number of North American teams. There's a lot of clutch potential here for Space Station still, as the clock says a minute left.
Yeah, but, I mean, remember the last time they were defending this? They managed to get, 2 kills on those roamers, and they pushed away the time even further for SK, and yet they still only won because of the C4, if I'm not mistaken, from Thinking Nade. So, I don't know.
Yeah, it was a great toss over into the corner where T'Challa is playing similar to now, and there's still Evil Eyes to cut through the smoke. Nyx will drop through the moto hatch. He'll look all the way in towards Church with the ability for Glaz to see through the smoke. This was something that was not available for SK the first time they attacked this site. You've got crossfire potential from Hot and Cold playing inside of Blue. Redeemer's Alda will rattle away in the background. A lot of hesitation here from SK, but there's a lot of smokes on the board too. Mint has his own set, Nyx has his own set, and just inching around the corner, Redeemer will spot Houghton and Nyx falls. Great play from two members of Space Station to even things out. Time is desperately ticking away. And in vain, Mint scrambling. Pojo will need to come in. Space Station, great potential. A complete lockout from Space Station. 5 kills and not a single death. SSG will hang on, and they will batter the Storm. Brave the Storm. Brave the Storm?
You know what? I'll take either.
Brave the Storm?
Batter the Storm works too. I could absolutely imagine right now a screaming individual with Space Station Gaming tattooed on his forehead running at a Storm with a baseball bat.
That is how most people seem to be handling climate change. So I would agree with you. That is how I'm just here. I'm not here to make political statements.
All right.
But that seems like a more effective climate change strategy than a lot of people believe in. So I think it's brave the Storm. Anywho, things got really precarious there in that particular round. SK really hesitated, and they're getting hurt by these Legion Mines now. 2 attacks downstairs onto Church. I can see you're still laughing. I get it, okay? I understand.
I'm sorry.
Two attacks in a row.
Yep.
They just got thwarted by the goo mines. And that is, number one, that's clock management first and foremost. A lot of teams, Rogue does this very well in North America. Just shoot the damn mines. You can see them. They shimmer. You can see them when you drone them. Or bring a Thatcher or a Twitch and take care of them.
10 seconds remaining.
SK Gaming have a Twitch skin.
Yeah, all in all,
they're not even running a Twitch.
All in all, just have some kind of tool that's going to help you with those. Because the traps have been instrumental in both of Space Station's defensive victories, and both of them, of course, being on the basement. It's something that you can, you know, read the pattern and fix.
Yeah, you know, SK started off really strong in that round. They took out Brian and Rampy methodically.
I'm still surprised they lost.
Very quickly. And then SK appeared like they were just going to barge through. But the problem is that they attacked from similar directions. They got slowed down by those goo mines. And most importantly, Space Station's anchor play, as I said before, is incredible.
Yeah, it certainly is. And it managed to persevere despite being in a 3 versus 5. So, all that said, here we go, going on to the first gym defense on this map so far. You saw a lot of basement and cash being played by Space Station, but after losing cash twice, they're not going to choose to go there anymore. You'll see if they can make Master work in their favor. Thinking Aid trying to bandit trick this wall, but not seeing a whole lot of success. Thanks to the grenades of Jarvis, he will be pushed off, and the wall's opened up now, which means SK have an effective way to cut off the rotation through the hallway. However, there are still ways for Space Station to deny the plant inside of B. Of course, that's going to be controlling A and using their Evil Eyes. Curiously, no C4 to be played downstairs right this minute from Space Station, but they actually do have the Valkyrie below, who could potentially spring into that position later on, though she is not there right this second.
That'll put Chala in a very strong opportunity to shut this plant down, which has happened once before. Actually, twice. There have been 2 great C4s that have been able to stop the plant. One time it was a big factor, the other time it wasn't. We've only had 1 successful plant from SK so far. I mean, they've opened up this jacuzzi wall here, though, Michael, and still have both smokes available from Nyx if they want to cleave off half of the site. Running that Maestro every single round, though, does give Space Station the opportunity to see through that smoke when it does get popped, which they've used to their advantage, especially in that last round.
Yeah. It's going to be something that I'm sure SK are going to try to use, and SSG will try to counter. And that's, of course, just going to be how the smoke usually plays out on these types of pushes. Though, we're coming down to like 30 seconds, and still 10 people on the board.
Absolutely incredible. Just for a second, Nyx will spot the legs of Brian, and I mean, it's a headshot. Brian, see you later. Mint goes down, Houghton will jump on Chala as a great C4 from Chala, and Thinking Nade grabs Jarvis. Space Station, once again, looks set to persevere. And SK, still struggling to get towards the site. It's a 3v3, tons of opportunity and good utility. SK will breach in here through Master. They'll swarm Redeemer, but what can he pull out? He'll take out Pojo Man. Diffuser going down in the hands of Nyx. Redeemer just needs to shut it down. Where's the call? There it is. Redeemer sees Nyx in the corner. And SK, once again, poor time management, struggling to crack the nut that is SSG's anchor play. And through that first half, Space Station walking away with 3 of the 5 rounds.
I gotta be honest, for a second there, I was a little bit worried that the Maestro was not gonna be able to find his planting opponent, because he was being marked. The glass was being marked. We heard the marks coming in our headset. We could, see them, and it's just a little bit of a miscommunication clearly in Space Station. So that almost went in SK's favor. If they had been able to get the defuse plant down, that could have very well been a successful attack, though they did not deserve it. But Space Station managed to persevere in the end. Good holdout, though, again, coming back to SK not deserving it, that was them very slow on that attack.
Yeah, I mean, that's been the story for SK so far, is that they have just struggled to find that rhythm and that footing, which is strange for SK because, I mean, I have images in my head of SK primarily centered around the Capitao of Jarvis and Adokabi as well. Literally just smoking off, cutting off any entry or re-entry from the defenders, getting a fast plant down, and getting out of there. We haven't really seen that so far. They've tried, but they've been swift. That door's been swiftly closed by Space Station on almost every single attempt. Now, as we switch sides, if we go along with the fact that Clubhouse tends to be a map that the defense ought to win on more than it doesn't, not bad that SK walked away with 2 of those 5 rounds, but it's going to be big to see exactly what happens here now as SK starts on defense. Space Station have a really good opportunity if they take this round to just control the rest of the game and march on towards a big 3 points.
Yeah, I think the success on attacking Cash for SK and managed to win that both times around was really huge for them. And yes, you're absolutely right. This being a defensive favored map, I think that now that SK has transitioned, they're going to be able to put up a heck of a fight and probably even this out. Based on the score, you wanna say at this point that the prospect of a draw is still pretty high.
Oh, I'd say so, absolutely. If it goes 2-3 and then just goes 3-2 the other way around, then yeah, we're going to end up on a draw here between these teams. But a great grenade gets tossed in there from Thinking Nade as he's taking up the mantle as the Buck. Just some ADS tricking from Jarvis as they're trying to keep this wall inside of construction safe. Thermite being brought out from Space Station as SK attempts in vain to keep the security wall whole, or construction wall whole. It'll blow wide open into Cash. Houghton on a very deep roam, by the way, completely unnoticed downstairs with that cardiac sensor. That's 9 meters. It doesn't reach all that way up through 2 floors, does it?
I think you might be able to spot someone if you're maybe standing like right under them, but I don't see it as likely.
Oh, he did. Yeah,
so
he can catch them.
If you're right underneath them, then you can catch them out. Though this is a very inefficient way to pulse people, and I believe the only reason he's doing this is to just lie in wait for his potential to C4 from below, which is wise because Space Station have very likely droned out immediately underneath, and now they won't have that information moving forward.
You've got to imagine they'll keep at least 1 flank drone on, though, knowing that they don't have the proper amount of intel from Houghton. If they don't know where he is, they've got to keep a drone somewhere. Houghton has made his way back to the main floor, though, and look at this. Both Brian and Challa are trying to find him. The UMP is not a formidable weapon here, and Brian will pick up his very first kill of the game. So Houghton does get spotted. Great flank watch. Through the smoke, Nyx just tearing Brian down. Plant going down as Redeemer is unspotted for the time being, Thinking Nade eliminating Pojo, and that's Diffuser down. Nyx will pick up his second kill. And they're in a post-plant situation. Challa on rappel, watching the AC unit. Thinking Nade will manage to take out Mint as he attempts in vain to go for the defuse. Oh, what a shot from Thinking Nade, and Rampy managing to eliminate the last member of SK in Jarvis. Space Station Gaming looking good so far through these 6 rounds they're going to stretch their lead by 1 extra round.
So no one has successfully defended Cash yet, and I think the mistake there for SK Gaming was going to Cash first, and they're going to swiftly correct that mistake in their second attempt, going to Church instead. Definitely the right call, given the way that this has been playing out thus far. The attack strategy through construction seems to be uncountered by either team. And while the C4 from below was a factor for Spacestation and they still didn't manage to make it work, it was shut down for SK, and because of that, they didn't have a huge part of their defense. The defuse plant was also not just inching in through the construction wall there for SSG, they instead pushed all the way to the site, which was very wise because SK Gaming were pre-firing just what were called default, which is just an inch in through the broken construction wall, and they were hitting nothing but air.
Worth reminding everybody that the last time these two teams played on Clubhouse, it went 6-2 in favor of Spacestation. I'd agree with you that there is still plenty of time for this to become a tie, but I have not really been impressed with the last couple rounds from SK, all things considered.
We have to say though, I mean, it's worth noting that so far, in terms of attacker defender sided, you know, we've seen the same thing for both teams, and the very small sample size for SK's defenses, as they've only done one, and that was Cash. But that could be the decision that costs them the match, going to Cash, because nobody's won there yet. If they can't win on basement, then of course the match is over at this point. But I don't know.
I mean, I think a big portion as to why you're losing Cash now is the fact that teams haven't figured out how to attack security. You have to give a big amount of praise to Cloud9, in particular, for during DreamHack Montreal, foregoing this garage push that a lot of teams were going for. You know, there was the early meta for this new Clubhouse was use, you know, Thermite would largely get banned, and then for Hibana, you'd Hibana open garage and take garage. But now, what we're seeing is a lot of teams are just going straight for garage, and no hard breachers are ending up getting banned.
Yeah, and you know what? The funny thing is, Cloud9 was one of the first teams to start to forego the garage take, but we saw them in USN like last week. They were pushing heavily on garage, and they managed to 6-1 their opponent of Obey.
I don't know if Rampy just saw that. He saw a mess of footprints in front of him, but there's a Valkyrie camera right above Rampy. I'm not certain if he spotted it or not. It was quite obvious on the ceiling above the stairs. We just go to Rampy's perspective here as he's just on drone for the time being, and still desperately trying to figure out where the rest of SK are playing. Not entirely certain, as we didn't get a good look at to where the Valkyrie camera was, but you can see here with both the Buck and the Jackal, this is a lot of destructibility that Spacestation brings to the table as they're still trying to sort out exactly where SK are sitting below. SK are continuously rotating. You saw that the Valkyrie of Jarvis, just playing at the bottom of the main stairs, has now headed back in towards the site. And no, that Valkyrie camera is still there.
This is happening yet again, though. The attack strategy coming out very slow. Not necessarily by virtue of how the teams play, but more the map itself. I like the castle barricade placement. It does disrupt the attack strategy somewhat, as do flashbangs like that. And the clash being in play means that because this is a slow strat from the attackers, when they go for the actual site push, they're going to be hindered quite significantly.
Yeah, clash, especially when you protect her and you play around her like that, you're designing the strategy so that you bleed out her utility. And Brian will confront her first things first. Though Nyx, as he tries to head out a dirt tunnel, say goodbye. Chala's watching. A great crossfire there establishes the class, pulls the shield out, and Houghton and Pojo will grab a kill apiece. Rampy, who's been so good this second half so far, he'll get one, but they'll double in on the clash. Say goodbye, hot and cold. It's all up to Pojo and Mint with just a second to go. Chala will enter plant position, but it's all over as SK just need to figure out where the plant is going wisely. SSG depriving SK of the stat padding. He'll fall off the diffuse plant, and SK will get a round that they really needed.
Without a shred of doubt in my mind, that round's outcome was definitely thanks to the clash. Playing inside of Arsenal and delaying that push for so long, also escaping from many situations where otherwise any other operator would have died. I mean, one notable moment there was when Clash had the shield on her back and was running away from the kitchen drop down and managed to absorb 10 bullets from somebody who is dropping into the site. So many situations where you're trying to deal with this thing right in front of you, and you just cannot. And when you're in a 20-second push environment, and it's still a 5 versus 5, you cannot deal with that. So partially, it's Space Station putting themselves in a corner because of the time. But I have to imagine if it had not been for that one operator right in their face that they just couldn't deal with, maybe the time wouldn't have mattered, because they were looking so lethal as they pushed the site. Yeah.
Similar to what we saw for SK as well. It's time management. It's time, and it might get a little bit frustrating hearing us harp on time management every single time, but you had Space Station executing with 20 seconds to go, and almost everybody's still alive. That's not enough time to make it work. Now, an investment into Garage. We have not seen a concerted push onto Garage from the attackers so far in this matchup, and this is the old meta, or at least the start of what we used to see from Clubhouse when the rework first went live. You put that angled Hibana up on the Garage wall so you can command that window that you see played just where Mint is for the time being. Look at that.
I think also important to note is that we're seeing a bar defense for the first time in this match, which is curious, though it seems to be a bar defense and an extension, a heavy extension into CCTV cache, which is odd. Don't often see that. Still, the focus, though, is Garage for Space Station, as they are trying to open it up and start going for those pings onto the players playing on the catwalk or the scaffolding or whatever you want to call it. Redeemer will be opening up the panel using his thermite charge. And, oh, bad timing there for Chala. Either way, though, seems to be a fallback for all of SK away from the Garage as the thermite detonates, and they will just try to hold on to cache server now.
And I think what SK realizes is that you need to play this from an aerial perspective as much as possible. The moment that Space Station takes over the top of stock, you have no retake potential whatsoever here on this site.
You know, there are there's 2 anchors right now, and I feel like this is a really easy potential just site push, and I think that's what SSG has called. Though the one thing is that they've called the site push into stock, which is dangerous because the roamers are above stock, and they can easily transition, as you see they have.
Yeah, you've got both Houghton and Nyx now coming downstairs to the aid of the rest of their team. Nyx will forego the ability to use those 2 Evil Eyes as Rampy now just wanders right in. He'll see the fluorescent glow of the clash as he breathes in a lot of that toxic gas. Diffuser goes down quite successfully. Excellent job from Space Station, and amidst the confusion, Rampy will pick off Pojo Man. Mint on a retake gets thinking nade, crosses out of the site, and that's a transitional play from Space Station that will go awry. 3v3. Houghton very low on HP. Jarvis eliminates Chala. Great play from the MPX. Redeemer with the ACOG just over by the kennels door, and Rampy also watching over towards Adam's spot. The clash will come in, and Redeemer cannot get a kill. Mint there as it's just Rampy. This is a dangerous position. The Glaz last left. Pulls out the PMM and tries to outduel the Bandit. Will get it, but Diffuse going down quite successfully. Rampy needs to play around it, but excellent play from the clash. It's London calling, and Jarvis answers. He gets the Diffuse, and we're all tied up 4-4.
Oh no. Oh no, oh no, oh no. That was so disheartening to watch. SSG had that well in hand. That was a beautiful call by Space Station to transition off of a Garage take, because they knew there was no value in it, into simply pushing stock. They isolated stock well. They managed to get the Diffuser down. SK's anti-plant was poorly positioned, that of course being the smokes. And then, I feel like maybe I sound like a broken record at this point, but Clash kind of just got in the way of all of that perfect execution. Now, around the Clash, the rest of SK were fragging out, and that's really important to note because Space Station had a huge lead there in terms of manpower, and potentially could have been a complete lockout, but the rest of the SK players just dropping frags, and of course, you know, Mint being one of those people, but wow, the shield though. So powerful.
Absolutely important part of the way that that played out. And you could see that Rampy just so frustrated. He came painstakingly close to seeing around that shield as he meleeed. What he was trying to do, for those that don't know in full, was he was attempting to melee the Clash, and as her shield moved, he was attempting to snipe Jarvis as the plant was going down. But Nyx was playing it, and playing it quite well by keeping his body square and flush to the doorway so that even when the shield would swing, it would still swing in such a way that it kept Jarvis safe. And now we're all tied up. And that PMM in particular that Rampy had out, if people might be critical of to why he had that rather than the OTS, it's the PMM is a pretty damn good weapon.
Yeah, I mean, in that situation, I could see the OTS being better just because of the ammunition. It did seem like Rampy was low on ammo. But the PMM is a pocket DMR, so whenever you run out of bullets in your regular DMR, you have another DMR to use. Or if you just want to do a close range engagement, then here's your other DMR. A lot of pistols in this game actually have about the same damage values, if not higher than DMRs. So, yeah, PMM's about as close as you can get.
Yeah, its damage output is
substantial.
Bonkersville?
Yeah, Bonkersville. I like that one.
I believe that's the official terminology for it.
Yeah, Bonkersville. Now, cash room defense here for SK. They did not manage to make this work the last time they went to this site. Space Station simply attacked from construction, as they're attempting to do once more. But here's the difference. Clash is in play, and the construction wall has been preemptively opened up. Could this be the two factors that SK need to win it? Impact tricking for Hot and Cold will actually, I think, be successful, potentially. Getting a round of Excaros. Yes, indeed, it got 2 rounds of Excaros. That is huge. And Nyx is going to take down Redeemer thanks to those pre-opened holes in the construction wall. So already the adjustment for SK Gaming has done great for them.
And it's taken out one of their 2 hard breachers, and arguably the one that in a closer engagement would find himself more vulnerable, but still Thermite sees a lot of use here, and that's going to allow a lot less flexibility in the way that Space Station is going to attack this site. They do have the soft wall here in construction. They'll be blown open by Brian's grenade launcher. They still got the Clash on the other side of it. As long as Houghton can stay alive for quite a long period of time, the rest of SK Gaming's chances and ability to clutch this out will continue to increase.
Yeah, Houghton did impact trick 2 Excaros earlier, and you could argue that anyone could impact trick that, but I think the aggressive nature of his position was what allowed him to do that, despite not having the shield up. The nature of his spot was why he could do that.
Another part that we've seen from Space Station here is that Rampy's glass plays have been getting shut down quite effectively. He's going to take a lot of damage there from the smoke and just try to wander on in. As Houghton eliminated from a grenade, great toss, Clash off the board. That's a sigh of relief right now. We'll follow along with the glass, but Rampy downed and then Mint finishes him off. Thinking Nade will take matters into his own hands. 2 kills for the Buck here inside a cache. He will have to go for a plant at some point, but neither Brian nor Thinking Nade hold the diffuser. Brian picks it up at the last second. Thinking Nade circling in. Brian down for Mint, and SK just needs to hide. Match point for SK Gaming.
What an incredible round there for SK, just holding out to the final second, and they push themselves into, if nothing else, a draw. So already Space Station losing out on a lot of potential points. They looked dominant in this match, and then as soon as they transitioned onto the attack, well, they struggled in 2 rounds against that Clash, and there in that final round, they struggled with the clock. Partially thanks to the Clash's impact tricking of the wall inside of Office, but other than that, also a great setup by SK, opening that wall from the construction into Master, and because of that, Nyx was able to get that long angle kill early on the Thermite. That's huge for SK Gaming. Now, similar to the previous match, the one we just watched, Noble versus Obey, neither team wants a draw out of this. Nobody wants a draw. Space Station at this point are fighting for that 1 point, sure, but mostly they're just fighting to keep themselves in the running for the playoffs. That's what they really want. They want to go all the way, but SK Gaming, they really do want those 3 points.
Yeah, this is, I mean, you have to go all the way back to July 24th, the last time that Space Station Gaming won a match in Pro League.
10 seconds left.
Let's forego DreamHack Montreal. SK Gaming has also not, not SSG. You have to go all the way back to July 24th, the last time that SK Gaming won a match in Pro League. If you ignore DreamHack Montreal, the fact that SK also, by having 2 Canadians on the roster, they don't compete in US Nationals. So SK, you got to go back, you know, what, 2.5 months now in order to see the last time they got a victory. They need one in terms of points. They need one for the breathing room that the rest of the standings have. And I mean, not only that, but it's a win over the team that you're currently sharing that standing with.
Yeah. Yeah, and having the same points right now, if this is a draw, then they're just going to maintain their position. And if they maintain their position, they leave themselves open to teams like Rogue, who will be playing Cloud9 in the final match of the day to start regaining that spot up there in the top 2-3. And that's really not what they want to do right now. This is definitely going to be a high-pressure round for SK. Meanwhile, SSG just trying to salvage the potential of the season.
So, match point, either a draw, at least 1 point on the table for SK. That will get them 2 closer to Evil Geniuses, who sit in first right now. But obviously, as you mentioned, and we agreed upon here, you're probably going to want to make sure that you get as many points as humanly possible. No impact trick that will be successful on that main kitchen hatch. You'll hear both dual hard destructors doing the work that they need to do. Stock hatch, main bar hatch, as well as kitchen hatch, all will be taken over by Space Station. And then Thinking Nade just doing exactly what you'd expect a Buck to do. Just wreaking havoc and causing so much of a hassle onto the defenders as he lords above, just outside of kitchen.
Yeah, that wall he just opened up was the end of Arsenal wall, and that's going to allow anyone pushing down the main stairs to easily rotate into Arsenal and get a great line of sight onto any of the defenders inside of the B. Now, Brian pushing from blue is going to be confronted with a clash, as well as a Jaeger. That's Jarvis playing behind the actual blue cover. There's a very spread out attack right now for Space Station. Seemingly they're trying to explore every single possibility for this attack, and that could work for them, it could work against them.
You hear there was a successful impact trick on the wall, but a tiny vantage point has been opened up inside that church wall. Pojo Man using 2 of those toxic gas canisters just to keep Space Station at bay. The Buck of Thinking Nade eliminated as Jarvis takes a lot of damage. Brian now on blue will be spotted by the clash. That's hot and getting very aggressive. It'll force Brian off. And Brian expecting a follow-up. Great read from Brian. Goes for the double, but the quick switch from Houghton as he'll pull out the SMG. And so long, Brian. Through that peek hole inside a church, Rampy and Redeemer both doubling up. Nix and Houghton are the only 2 left. The clash right now will have to be the focal point. Rampy trying to lay in a couple shots as much as possible, and Nix will need to be the savior. Plant is going down, waiting for the feed of the clash. Houghton will pull it out. He'll down Rampy. Nix gets Chalo. Redeemer is down, and it's a lockout as a bit of celebration here. An easy defuse for SK. And for the first time since the end of July, SK Gaming will win a match in Pro League, and that's a pretty big win.
Fantastic job to SK Gaming. A near comeback for Space Station. They almost had it there in the end. But wow, the clash play for SK, managing to get them almost seemingly